Eddie, welcome to Australia. Nice to get out of the UK after a tough week, I imagine.
Yeah, boxing's like, 1 week you really can't live without it and the next week you really want to live without it. But this week is definitely a week that I can't live without boxing because, the response we've had from the fighters, from the fans in Australia, from the media, it's been great. And it's really refreshing to come into a market that is pleased to have you. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I feel like this is a really pivotal time for Australian boxing. I'm not here to waste my time, like it's a long way away. And we made the effort because we believe there is a future here and we believe there's talent. And this weekend we have a great fight night to kick it all off on DAZN.
We'll touch briefly on that rough week you had. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that Eubank Benn still happens?
I'm confident. There's a lot of information that people don't know. There's a lot of information that we can't talk about because Conor Benn's about to have a big legal case ultimately to determine when he's going to be able to fight again. We are governed by a commission, a regulatory body. We don't decide whether they sanction fights or not. And I've seen a lot of sort of speculation that this was swept under the carpet. No, this was discussed between all parties, fighters, promoters, the governing body, and it was decided after a period of discussion and research and legal documents going backwards and forwards that it wouldn't be sanctioned. From there, we had the choice to run with the event. We could challenge that decision, which we would have won, or we could have run with another commission, two things that we decided not to do. So I need to let Conor Benn go through a very important process in his career. The information that we have from the scientists is one where I believe people will change their opinion, but I also understand that the opinion of an adverse finding in a test normally leads to one opinion. And sometimes that can be harsh, sometimes that can be very fair. But I feel like in all cases like this, you need to let the truth come out. In terms of the week, yeah, it was rough. Like, you get untold abuse and stick. I've been through it many times, with other situations, with other fighters. And there's nothing you can do. You can stay true to the game, stay true to yourself, keep your head down, keep grinding, and wait for Conor Benn to be given the opportunity for the truth to be heard. And I think people won't feel sorry for him yet, but he's had a very, very rough period, and he's got a rough period coming up because he's got to clear his name.
As we understand it, Chris Eubank was still keen for the fights to go ahead. Did you speak with him, and how did he react when it was called off?
When the tests came in and everybody was made aware, at the same time, by the way, Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn spoke. There's a lot of people saying they didn't speak. He was asked, did you speak on the morning of the cancellation from the board, which they didn't. They had a conversation on the phone. Callis Sowland, Chris Eubank's promoter, got all the information, got all the lab research, spoke to their medical experts, and Chris Eubank said, I'm comfortable to fight in this fight. You also, when we talk about information coming out, you have to understand, for people to be comfortable with that situation, certain information has to come out that actually, you have to understand that if someone's in a willing to proceed, they would be comfortable with certain bits of information from that testing. So all of his UCAD tests, this is really the discrepancy here. All of the UCAD tests, which are governed by the British Boxing Board of Control, which are the only regulatory body that the British Boxing Board of Control abide by, were all clear. So technically, he can fight. People are right when they say, you can't just ignore VADA, because we pay for VADA. And there's VADA testing this week, which we're paying for. There's big fights, there's another big fight happening in London this week. I believe there's no VADA testing. So I kind of feel like we've been a bit kicked in the nuts because we pay all this money for VADA testing because we want to improve testing in the sport, but we also get criticised, and I understand that, but because of the findings in the test, which again, I can't elaborate on, but it made people comfortable to proceed with the bout. The board had a difficult decision, and we waited for the board's decision. And the board's decision was, unfortunately, we feel like we can't sanction this bout. We take it on the chin and we move forward. Chris Eubank and his team digested all the information and was happy to proceed with the bout. In fact, Calla made a good point this morning that legally, Calla actually couldn't cancel the fight. And nor could I actually, because Chris Eubank Jr. had the right to, but he wanted to proceed because of the information. So again, I always say too much because I'm told by Conor Benn's lawyers, you really can't comment on this while we have our opportunity. But it was a difficult period. But it's important for people to know that it wasn't a case of, not discussing this with the board and the opposition and the promotion. That the eventual decision was taken out of our hands.
Much to the frustration of fans, it looks like Tyson Fury won't be fighting Anthony Joshua. In short, how far did that progress and why didn't it happen?
Really far. I mean, look, Tyson Fury is the master of deception, okay? 3 weeks ago, nearly now, he gave us a deadline that said, I have to know my opponent by today. So you've got till the end of today. It's nearly 3 weeks on, he still has no opponent, okay? So why will we put on the clock? Why will we put on a deadline? He's been negotiating for Derek Chisora now for 3 weeks, okay? There's no deadline on Derek Chisora, so why was there a deadline on Anthony Joshua? Again, some people don't really look into that enough. I feel like Tyson Fury called AJ's bluff. He felt that he was probably down a little bit after his defeat to Usyk. Probably felt like it's a good way for me to say, look, I tried to get Joshua, but now I've got to fight Char or I've got to fight Chisora because he wouldn't take it. And AJ called the bluff. He took the bait. From there was a load of discussions to be had. The only positive thing to come out of all this is the dialogue between us and Queensberry, which actually has just made another big fight today. So that was a positive. When you come out, myself and George Warren both agreed, we're not going to say anything. We're not going to sit on social media. I'm not going to say he said. And that worked, but then Tyson kept coming out and goading AJ, telling him about deadlines. And I think in the end it was like, look, leave him. And it's probably not an ideal time for AJ to fight Fury in terms of where he could be in 4 or 5 months. But he wanted to take the fight. I want to make that clear. And I don't make the decisions. Once AJ says, I want to take the fight, it's my job to try and make it. And we did that. I'm not saying everyone was faultless, but the goading from Tyson Fury and these fake deadlines, 2 of them. And when you come on social media and you say, if you don't sign by 5, and then the deadline passes and says, you're out, you bum, dosser, it's you over, you're finished, fight's off. At that point, AJ goes, okay, whatever. And I'm saying to him, no, look, I'm talking to Queensberry. And Queensberry wanted to make the fight, no doubt.
So where do we sit now with Fury Chisora?
So Chisora has been made an offer, of which he's negotiating at the moment. Again, those discussions have been going on for 3 weeks with Derek Chisora. I think that will be the fight that will happen December 3rd. We have to decide as a team if AJ wants to go December 17 or wants to wait until January or February. We'll see what happens. And the same plan that I had in the changing rooms after the Usyk fight. Get active, enjoy yourself again, start knocking people out and having fun, and that's the plan.
Matters closer to home. What will a win on Saturday night mean for Liam Paro or Brock Jarvis?
I'd say this is a great fight. I mean, look, we've had a lot of publicity. There'll be a great audience tuning in on DAZN. Liam Paro's kind of got a lot to lose here. He's kind of sitting pretty in the WBO rankings at number 2. He keeps fluctuating between 1 and 2. And a victory here will probably see him go back to number 1 and basically waiting for that Josh Taylor situation. Josh Taylor is going to fight Jack Catterall for the WBO. And then I think if Catterall wins, he'll have to fight Liam Paro, or if the title's vacated, which it probably will be if Taylor wins, then Liam Paro will fight probably Teofimo Lopez. Jeff Fennick's right, they've given us an opportunity to walk through the door here at 140 pounds, and Brock Jarvis looks like an absolute beast. He's going to be relentless from the first bell here. But Liam Paro's a good operator, both have had great camps, and the winner's going to put themselves in a tremendous opportunity to fight for the world title at 140 pounds.
Another fighter on the card, Dempsey McQueen, big Australian heavyweight, ranked in 2 organisations. Assuming he gets past Patrick Corte, what are some potential fights you're looking at for him?
Honestly, if he gets past, 100% he's having a big fight next. And it's Anthony Joshua, it's Dillian Whyte, it's Derek Chisora, it's Zhilei Zhang, it's Filip Hrgovic. It's all of our heavyweights in the top 15. He's there. And I feel like Australian boxing really needs to get behind Dempsey McQueen because he's about to be in a very big heavyweight fight if he can get past Corte. I expect him to. I think Corte's 18, 19 and 1. Never really fought at a really high level, but tough enough to have a great fight. And the future's bright for Dempsey McQueen. He's in a really good position.
You've mentioned this week your dream to put on a big show just around the corner here at the Gabba. Dempsey McQueen and AJ, is that the kind of thing you'd like there?
I used to play a lot of cricket. I'm a big cricket fan. I grew up watching the Ashes at the Gabba. So when I came to Brisbane for the first time, I remember driving past the Gabba thinking, it's the Gabba. And I thought, imagine doing a fight at the Gabba. But who could you do at the Gabba? It's Canelo Alvarez or it's Anthony Joshua. So you need the right dance partner, and of course you need an Australian dance partner. So Dempsey McQueen against AJ at the Gabba is definitely one on the radar, but Dempsey's got to go out and make a statement on Saturday night to make people accept him as an opponent against elite heavyweights. But if I could, I've done Wembley Stadium, Millennium Stadium, I've done Dallas Cowboys, I've done so many great Tottenham Hotspur. To do the Gabba would be one for the bucket list.
Another Aussie fighter with the world at her feet is Skye Nicholson. Yeah. She fights on Saturday for her first title, the Commonwealth featherweight title. I spoke to her yesterday. She says one of her dream fights would be Amanda Serrano, and she fancies herself in that clash. How big a fight would that be? I've got to say, the improvements that Skye has made, seeing her in the gyms and sparring, that fight becomes, almost like an instant, could be instant reality, because she had 4 fights very quickly. The adaptation from one of the best amateurs that Australia's ever produced to a seasoned professional has really occurred in a very short period of time. Like almost to the point where I'm watching her now in the gym and spars thinking, I think you could beat Serrano. And I would never have said that 4 months ago. I mean, she's only been a pro for 6 months. So Saturday's another all-Australian clash for the Commonwealth title. Of course, she won Commonwealth gold in the amateurs in Queensland as well. She's got a lot of support. But, she's got the full package. If she can adapt to the pro game, sit down on her shots and show what she's been showing in the gym, you guys could have a major star on your hands in Skye Nicholson. And I really feel like she's 3 fights max away for fighting for the world title. We have Erica Cruz, the WBA world champion at featherweight. Of course, there's Amanda Serrano, who owns the rest of the belts. Skye could fight Cruz, and if she beats Cruz, she fight Amanda Serrano for undisputed. And that could happen very quickly. That's another fight that could take place in a big arena in Brisbane. So yeah, I think again, there's a lot of fighters on this card that the Australian fans need to get behind. She's definitely one of them. I know you said you come in peace when it comes to expanding into Australia, but you're always looking to sign new talent. Is there any names on the card on Saturday night that you've got your eye on? I mean, what I love about the undercard, there's just such a great mix of fights on Saturday night. There's 7 fights, and they're all championship fights. I don't think I've ever done a card like that before. There's 6 defeats only. There's 8 fights actually. There's 6 defeats only between 16 fighters, right? It's amazing. And from there, all these fighters have the opportunity to impress, not just to me, but on a global audience and a global platform on DAZN. So I'm saying to them, people like Matteo Tapia against Mayweather, that's a great fight. I mean, Tapia Mayweather sounds like like one for the ages. And even beneath that, you've got Rocky Ogden against Sam Cameron Hands. It's like 3-0 against 2-0. Then you've got Rhys Evans, who had 130 amateur fights. He's debuting against a 9-0 Jalen Tate. What's going on? When do you ever see that? But that's how keen these guys are to take their opportunity, and I love that. So everybody's got a chance to be part of the Matchroom stable moving forward. We do come in peace. Doesn't mean we don't want to take over, because that's always the plan. But we like everybody here. There's some great promoters here. There's some great fighters here. Of course, we want to strengthen our stable, not just at the lower end of prospects, but the bigger end of champions. So we'll be doing that, and Saturday is the perfect start for us. Someone with a big opportunity in front of them is Stevie Spark. Yeah, November 12, Montana Love in Cleveland. What do you like about Stevie, and what would a win mean for his career? So Brendan Smith's a lovely man. He's a gentleman. I always promised him that if I was in Australia, I'd go up to his gym in Toowoomba. And when I was here in June, I did think that Toowoomba was 45 minutes away. It's actually nearly 3 hours. But I made the way to the gym, met Stevie for the first time, and I just liked the kid. I looked at him, I thought, this is a proper old school fighter. Like, 1, he's really exciting to watch. 2, he can really punch. He's a fearless kid. And I love Montana Love as well. I actually think this is a brilliant fight between those two. And I just wanted to give, I said to Stevie about fighting on this card. And he was like, I'm up for that, but I want a big fight. And there was no fight, particularly all-Australian fight, that I really felt was there for Stevie Spark. He wanted to travel internationally. We talked about Algeria, we talked about Robbie Davis Jr., we talked about Valenzuela, and then the Montana Love fight, probably the toughest of all of them, popped up. And he said, why not? He has a chance to become a massive name on November 12th.
in Cleveland. And by the way, could also fight the winner of Saturday night. That's another big all-Australian fight. So massive opportunity for Stevie, and good luck to him.
A month later in Leeds, December 10, Bridges O'Connell, All-Australian for the IBF Bantamweight title. It went to purse bids. How keen were you for it, and why were you so keen to get that fight?
I mean, people talk about that fight taking place in Australia. I get that because they're two Australians. But also don't underestimate the value that Ebony has created in the UK. She's a big name now. And ultimately, when you've got the A side in the fight, you want to give them all the advantages of being at home. You know, make the opponent travel. You know, let her come and experience 10,000 Leeds fans being very, very noisy. You know, and I think that it's a great opportunity for Ebony Bridges to have a big profile fight. Some people say it's a 50-50 fight. I disagree. I think Ebony's improvements are at another level. Shannon's a good fighter, but she's also going to find it difficult to come and travel. And honestly, like, the atmosphere is volatile, and they'll really be supporting Ebony Bridges, and the build-up will be exciting, and it'll be not nasty, but you know, it'll be confrontational. And that's good. I like that for boxing. So that's a really big, high-profile fight. And the plan for us is to always have Australian talent in as many shows as possible. So, you know, coming off here on October 15th, November 12th is Stevie Spark, December 10th is Bridges against O'Connell. And it's important for us to stay relevant in the Australian market before we return here, probably in early 2023.
Eddie, thanks for your time.
Thank you, mate. And thanks to Sporting News for all their support.